This is Mark, Hay Creek Stock Farm, haycreek.net. This is a story of the roof and everything that went into getting ready to do the roofing, straightening up the sills and stuff on this barn. 36 by 100 feet, reported by relatives locally and stuff. That was built around 1915. What's known locally as a basement style barn. So you got the poured concrete foundation that is the main floor where the milking was done, and the upper floor is a mow. Here's this manger is poured concrete. Manger is the only physical evidence of actual dates, 1928. But the story is that the main structure was built in 1915. Here's on the west side, a window opening showing the thickness of the poured concrete foundation. That's a 3-inch diameter LED lantern for comparison, for scale. There's a hollow broken through where the facings come off to show the hollow part of the wall. So they're roughly 16 inches thick. I don't know how wide that cavity is. It's hard to measure, and I have no idea how they did that, how they made that hollow in there at the point of pouring. Those barn cleaner chain links are 6 inches long, so that's also a reference for scale. This particular window opening has an original sill. That's the sill beam right there above it. That one hasn't been replaced. It was in good enough shape. As you'll see in the upcoming stuff, the significant sections of it were replaced because it was rotten and allowing the sill line to collapse. This is the east view, same barn. And a shed roof, a large shed roof, was installed probably in the 70s as a retrofit. The steel on this side was put on in 2018, the steel roofing, and on the other side, the west side, in 2009, so 9 years between the two. In the interim, the sill project on this side was done to allow the roofing to go on. The sills had to be fixed before the roofing because once the roofing is installed, it solidifies that whole, or rigidifies, if you will, a whole roof sheathing and makes it impossible to independently jack sections of it. Here's what the mow is used for now, small square bales, showing here myself putting them down for calves. Most everything goes in on the hay elevator down the center from the outside, where there's an old case grain elevator elevates them, and then they travel the length of the barn in an overhead elevator, get dropped off at various points. This is the very end drop. If they go straight off the end without getting diverted, they end up in this pile. So I'm putting them down for calves. And they go down in a lane right next to the barn foundation wall inside that shed roof area. So it's convenient for feeding calves, both in this enclosed shed area, and there's a walkway, kind of feeder bunk out the south end where you can walk straight out on a little ramp and put them down there as well. And you can wheel them the whole length, so you don't have to carry them. You can put them on a dolly and wheel them around. Works very well. So these are the calves eating bales in the east shed roof area. This is back up in the mow, showing the line of the upper sill. This is the sill transition between the 6-foot riser walls and the actual gambrel barn roof. These are leftover. These are the lifting legs that were installed to be able to jack between the barn foundation and those horizontals to lift a bisectional wall to replace the sill, get the old sill out and put a new sill in. So we're getting a view of the new sill after straightening. There's still a little dip here and there. That one can only jack it so much before there's too much resistance on it. This is a picture of these truss-like members that, stiffen the timber. Actually, a full round timber. It kind of serves to strengthen and stiffen the joint between that riser wall and the roof, prevent the thing from going on a whack. And there's also this diagonal that goes down to the barn mow joists, the floor joists. Keep the whole thing square. This is a view of the overhead conveyor. At the very peak, which you can't really see visible, there's a monorail too, which was the original way of getting loose hay into the barn, using horses and ropes and like a kind of a hook clamp thing for lifting a bunch of loose hay at a time. This barn was actually designed for loose hay. That's why it's so huge. It doesn't really need to be nearly this big for baled hay. Here's a detail of the replacement section of the sills, showing the boxed kind of sill replacement that went right on top of the foundation. There's a wedge lock anchor bolt holding the bottom full 2x10 section down, and then a rough cut 2x4 on either side of that, and then capped off with another layer of rough cut 2x10. They were all pine and some tamarack. This is the outer view of that same sill capping the foundation along the full length of the east side. On the east side, like 60% of it, like 60 feet of it, 100 feet were replaced. There was only a relatively small portion of sill that was still good. You can see the little poured concrete, like a thinset concrete that was used to even out the sill from the old foundation. The actual foundation pour originally was really rough on top, and they just kind of mortared in the original more or less 6x6 pieces of log. A lot of them weren't even squared off totally. They were just flattened on two sides. We put in these thinset pads nominally 2 feet, and on either side of a window or door opening, and then between them screwed them down with wedge lock anchors. Here's some original sill. This one was in particularly good condition. This one's a full square. They were made of all kinds of different materials. There was no one consistent material. These seemed to be of a very hard wood. A lot of them were extremely soft, like pine logs. What's notable about this barn, you see the siding, some of the siding's missing. The lower siding was all crumpled because of the compression of the sill, a rotten sill caused by condensation from dairying and confinement dairy. All the moisture is condensing on that outer cold surface and rotting the wood. But the actual original siding is old growth fir, Douglas fir, imported from the West Coast, or imported to Minnesota from the West Coast. It's not native here. All the rest of all the framing material is local white pine. This shows a section, a 12-foot opening for 2 doors. There's one post about a third of the way across. Originally there was a big bow in the wall here because just a sill member had gone across there to support the wall over the bigger span. It's like a 6-foot span, 6+ foot span.